Greetings, Poe fans, and welcome back to Review Morgue. Jeannie, would you like to
Yep,
introduce the movie we are reviewing?
absolutely, I can. Well, we are doing our fifth Roger Corman. We are doing the 1963 version of The Raven. As you can see in the background of my picture, we have Vincent Price as our star player. Well, one of them. He
Yes.
is the main player.
Yeah.
Then we have the Raven playing the Raven. Uh,
But then there is a
and
human who plays also a raven
yes.
for a time.
Yes, that's where I was leading into is the story is not strictly Poe the Raven. It does have elements of Poe's the Raven.
Hmm.
However, this picture of Poe the Raven is the only thing you get because once he gets turned into a human, he's not a raven anymore.
No,
But anyway,
nope.
I would say this is more, I wouldn't even call it a parody. I'd say more of a spoof.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. Yeah, the more I've watched it,
Mhm.
and I think I've seen this one more than any of the other ones. And I would totally agree. It's definitely a spoof.
Yeah, it's got a more comedic, as in method comedic, meaning the body acting of the running into things. The one thing it definitely told me when I was watching it, it told me, oh look, it's the Three Stooges that we have interfering here. Because that's what I felt like half the time is like I'm watching the Three Stooges.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, oh, it's a mixture because we got the Three Stooges, then we've got Mary Poppins kind of thing because
Hmm.
some of the actual setting and staging that they had put on was so reminiscent of Mary Poppins. It was not even funny.
Interesting. Okay.
Uh, but there's one part I want to talk about later on, but not just yet. I think we need to get the logistics out of the way first about who's in it, who plays what, a little bit of background before we actually talk about the film. So
Okay.
that's where I'm going to turn it over to you because
All
you
right.
make a list of all that stuff.
Oh yes, that's my dependable list taking notes
Mm-hmm.
and all that fun stuff. All right. So as Jeannie said, it is the fifth Roger Corman directed film, American International Pictures, AIP, and it was done in 1963. And we have Vincent Price, who plays Dr. Craven, Craven, so little play
Mm-hmm.
on Raven. Peter Lorre plays Dr. Bedloe, and he is the human who was turned into a raven. And
Mm-hmm.
one thing, we'll talk about this later too, but I want to mention just costuming right here because I'll bring that up later. Then you have Boris Karloff, who plays Dr. Scarabus. And
Mm-hmm.
then Olive Sturgis played Estelle, who was Vincent Price's daughter. And then Hazel Court played Lenore, who was Craven's dead wife. But we
Mm-hmm.
come to find out quickly she's not so dead.
Yeah.
And
She
then,
was looking really good, really well for a dead person.
absolutely. And then Jack Nicholson, a young Jack Nicholson, it's one of his first roles, plays Rexford, who is Dr. Bedloe, played by Peter Lorre's son. And
Mm-hmm.
so you've got all kinds of things, a lot of different tropes that, we see in these types of films, medieval times, in castles and all the tapestries, the Baroque type furniture, very gothic. and just again, these actors pull off some wonderful things.
Yeah, and one thing that bothers me about some of the costuming is that it leads more towards a Shakespearean time.
Yes. Yes.
And that's kind of what I'm like, considering Poe was not a big fan of Shakespeare,
Hmm.
but I think a lot of it is this could also be money wise because they have a lot of Shakespearean troupe like costumes and settings and everything like that. So, they got to use what they got type of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it is kind of gothic. I do
Yeah.
like how some of the pictures at the very beginning, when Vincent opens the show by reading the poem, I think he reads like one part, one half of the verse,
I
or
think
one half
so.
of
It's a
the poem.
large chunk of the poem.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
like a
Yeah.
large chunk of the poem. He reads up until he can introduce Lenore, at least.
Yes.
And the different pictures that they're superimposing while he's reading
Mhm.
or reciting the poem is very cool because one of the pictures, if I'm not mistaken, is of the house of the fall of the House of Usher.
Yes, I think you're right. Yes.
So, and then they have the seaside, which is a dedication of the Annabelle Lee. So,
Mhm.
once more, Corman, like always, that we talked about, he likes interjecting a lot of other Poe stories in what he's doing.
And synthesizing.
Exactly. So yeah, the beginning of the movie is very intriguing. I'll say that much because it gets you in the mood with him reading The Raven, and then it's got that somber uh tragedy going on
Yeah.
because once more he is in grief from the death of Lenore, and then his
Right.
daughter Estelle brings him his warm glass of milk
Yes.
so he can go to bed.
Oh, I know.
And
Oh,
I'm like, wow, okay, how old is he again? All right. But then it's okay. Then we start getting off the rocker, is what I like to say.
well,
Because yes, this has a mixture of where there's a sorcerer society. They call themselves, well, Dr. Bedlow, right? Bedlow, is that how?
Peter Lorre, yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Dr. Bedlow actually is a magician, but he wants to be a sorcerer.
Yes.
However, Vincent Price's character, Craven, is a sorcerer, and his father used to be the Grand Master of the Sorcerer
Something,
Society.
yes,
Yeah.
something like that. Yes. And
And one
he
thing,
had more powers than anybody.
yes, and one thing that was very interesting was Craven's father's first name. Did you catch that?
Roderick.
Yes. So once more, we got to stick that Fall of the House of Usher in there too.
Absolutely. I want to add one other thing to the setting that you were describing just a minute
Mhm.
ago. Very Poe-esque. Lenore's coffin is in the foyer, really.
Mhm.
Covered up with a shroud, I guess you could say,
Yep.
and yes, sitting out for everybody to walk by.
Yeah, and her painted portrait is hanging over it, with the draped curtain, but it's
Yes,
not covered. It's open. But what's very interesting about it is there's no eyes.
I know. Yes.
Yeah, so that was very interesting that he's got the portrait, but there's no eyes to it.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it was very interesting that. So, not to tell you the whole premise, every step of the movie, because I do believe everyone needs to watch it at least once.
Absolutely.
I will say that. It's it is a comedy. It is, but it's a painful comedy because it's a very 60s comedy because you have a mixture of what they did with the monkeys. You have a mixture of the Three Stooges kind of comedy. You have other like things mixed into it where you're going, where in the world or what were they smoking? You know.
Hmm.
So especially my one thing that started it off was like when Vincent Price is sitting in his winged back chair
Yeah.
and drawing a raven with his powers that are green lines, that he's drawing the raven in the air and giving this little smile. And I'm thinking, it makes him seem so much like a toddler playing at a crayon.
Yeah.
It was just,
But if you think about it, his whole world has changed because he was enamored. He was, madly in love with Lenore. Think about
mm,
Poe's poem, The Raven, and what the man going through that grief was going through, almost into madness. In a way, Vincent Price's character was kind of doing the same thing, but regressing to like a child with the warm milk, like you mentioned. The
yeah.
childlike,
But that type of madness wasn't so much madness, it was more of what do they call it? De-aging.
yeah,
That's not necessarily madness. That's just
but
more of
it,
a
but it's a
re-
way he's grieving.
yeah, well, that'd be pushing it in my opinion, but I can see where you're coming from. But
Yeah.
still, it was it was the part to where I'm going,
Yeah.
okay,
Well,
not
and
really my cup
I,
of tea.
I agree with you at the very beginning, the opening scene when he is reading the poem or reciting the poem of the Raven,
Hmm.
and the Raven, he does let a Raven in, which we know
Hmm.
does become Peter Lorre. We do have to kind of mention that. And
Yeah.
but the Raven lands on the bust of Pallas. It was just great.
Yes. Yeah,
And
those little
yes,
tidbits were very well done. I will give them that much. It was very well done in that
yeah,
area.
and absolutely. And for the time period, the setting is done brilliantly. The costuming is, I think, really well done as well. And especially Peter Lorre's costume before he kind of is able to not look like a raven. And so, because
Hmm.
when Vincent Price was able to turn him back into human, his outfit still portrayed a raven because it was all black, the fabric of the tunic and everything. It reminded me of the fabric I used for my raven dress that I made,
Hmm.
which is kind of weird, because that's many years in between. But
Hmm.
it just, I loved how those little details were not missed.
Yeah, they were very detail oriented in this one. I will give them that much.
Yeah.
Sometimes they were over detailed to the point that it was so redundant. You're going, really? Really? Okay. But as the story goes, and it was very catching, I will say that.
Mhm.
I only lost interest in a couple places to where I had to refocus myself.
Okay.
But for the most part, it was like not overly predictable, but very predictable
Hmm.
to the point to where it's like, oh yeah, I know where this is going. Oh, okay. Well, I didn't see you could do that, but okay. Uh,
Yeah.
but Boris Karloff was the one that surprised me the most
Okay. So why?
because
Kind of curious.
it was so unlike him.
Hmm.
And I guess this one was because he was older and he was starting to look older
Yeah.
and he was not acting as his normal Boris Karloff self kind of
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah.
Not that it was bad, it was very nice to see that side of him, that range that he had.
Yeah.
So I kept having to remind myself that is Karloff, you know,
Yeah.
but it's like, oh, it's not Karloff, but it is Karloff. So,
Yeah. I mean, it does make you, when you really think about when he was doing all of his work in the 30s, especially versus 30 years later in the 60s. Yes, the man definitely aged. I mean, all three of these guys did. they all look a little bit different. Vincent Price probably looked the best out of all three. To
Yeah,
me, his aging process, to me, he did not look older until he was in movies like Edward Scissorhands, which was the last one he did before he died.
right.
So so for him, he was like timeless in his looks
Yes.
to some
I
degree.
will say that
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
he didn't have a look that was any different even when he did Edward Scissorhands. And
Mhm.
as old as he was, it was still Vincent Price. You had
Right.
no
Right.
worries whatsoever.
Yeah. But I
But
liked Karloff's character, and just the Scarabus, especially when he would say it, was just, it rolled
yeah,
off his tongue. And
yes.
then Lenore is,
Mm-hmm. The floozy.
yes. And we don't want to give too many spoilers, but Hazel Court plays Lenore, and
Mm-hmm.
in just true acting style, she does an amazing job as that
Mm-hmm.
character. Uh, Almost reminiscent of the type of character she played in Mask of the Red Death. Just,
Yes.
she knows how to turn on the villain, and kind of like with what you were saying earlier about like the fairy tale aspect. I mean,
Mhm.
she could have been a Disney villain, honestly.
Yes. She very much could have played a Disney villain.
Mhm.
It fits so well.
Yeah, like the
And
evil queen or something.
yes, she would definitely be a very good Maleficent.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, she could play that part all day long.
Yes.
But I guess one of the things is after they do get with Scarabus, Boris Karloff's character, and it's like the storyline gets stagnant to me.
Okay.
And I mean, they have such a giant opening to where Boris Karloff's character, Scarabus, is playing an evil character,
Yes.
but he doesn't come across as an evil character. He just comes across as a flat, embarrassing character. This is the one thing that bothered me, I guess, the most with
Hmm.
Vincent Price and Boris Karloff at the end between the two of them. Because all I kept thinking to myself is that you have two such wonderful, memorable, awe-inspiring actors, and you've reduced them to this
Hmm.
because it didn't even seem worthy, I guess is what I'm trying to get at,
Okay.
what they were doing, because it was just bland. It was so flat. It's like they couldn't even put any of themselves into it because they didn't know how. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm getting at. These characters, and I understand where they were going with the characters, but it's like they couldn't pull it off in the special effects department.
Hmm.
And because they couldn't do it in the special effects department, Karloff and Price could only do so much with their acting to make it work.
Hmm.
And they were trying. And I will tell you without a doubt, they were doing excellent jobs in acting this out. But to me, it was like the struggle was so hard for them that I truly got mad because I'm like, why would you do this? Why didn't you just rewrite it? And I understand you're trying to make it funny. You can make it funny, but you're putting so much. I don't know. I don't want to say that I dislike the movie. I didn't. It's not that I want to say that I don't like Corman. I do. I just I felt like out of all the movies so far that Corman has done, this one made Price and Karloff look the worst of
Okay.
all of them. And it wasn't because of their acting, it was because I want to believe the script they were giving because they didn't have the um right setup. They just didn't have the right setup for this show.
Well, but let me just say this. The person that wrote this screenplay was actually
Mhm.
Richard Matheson, who is one of the brilliant writers of our time.
Yeah, well, I hate to say it, but even brilliant writers have a bad day, and this was his bad
True.
day.
True. Now, I think I like the movie better than you do. It
Hmm.
just from what and I hate to say many times that happens.
Hmm.
And I guess for
Yes.
me, maybe it's, obviously, neither one of us grew up in this time frame. We weren't born yet. But just thinking about just Price, Lorre, and Karloff, I think it was maybe more the nostalgia for me, and just I like the period that they were setting the story in, and they used a real raven, which was really wonderful. And so I think that for me is what makes it more of a connection for me than you.
Well,
I don't know.
I will agree to disagree on one parts of that
Okay.
because even though we didn't grow up in that era,
Right.
these were movies that I watched because my parents, this is their
Yes.
era.
Yes.
So it was, and it wasn't so much that the movie itself, I just think that during this time was the early 60s and
Hmm.
a lot of experimentation was happening in Hollywood
Absolutely.
starting this time period because this is when, color started coming out in the movies. It was very expensive to put movies in color still, but at the same time, they were still a limited budget. They were still limited in what they could do,
Hmm.
what type of special effects they had. We know that with Star Trek, and that's where I was leading into, is
Okay.
because this to me was the kickoff for Star Trek.
Yeah, with 3 years
Because
later. Yeah.
Lorre, if you even look, Lorre in the time when he was facing off with Scarabus, he even did the Vulcan. This. He did this to Scarabus when he had a wand in this hand and he
Right.
was pushing at him with the Vulcan hand signal.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. I couldn't get to show up on my end.
Oh,
He did that, and when he did that, I lost it. I was like, "Oh no, 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 no!" If Kirk pops in and his shirt gets ripped off, and somebody comes in with a recorder and a blue shirt on, I would be right there in the Star Trek universe. And
oh,
I was like, "Oh Lord, please no!" But
oh, that's
that's the one
funny.
thing. It's not a bad movie by any means.
Hmm.
It just that was the only part that I really felt that Corman let them down, or even Matheson in his writing
Hmm.
let Karloff and Price down.
Yeah.
Now, Lorre did an awesome job
Well, and
because this, he got to play a character that kind of, he could have fun with.
absolutely. Well, and one thing that I had heard about Lori, I think it was from the Tales of Terror or the Comedy of Terrors. I think it's the Comedy of Terrors that he did so much ad-libbing. Price would have to kind of pull him back because Karloff was, we have to go by the script, kind of
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah, and that's where I was getting to because Karloff and Price to some extent are very much strict script actors.
Hmm.
They don't like to sway from what they're, the straightforward.
Yeah.
That's why Karloff plays the characters he does so well, is
Hmm.
because they're very built to his method of acting.
Right.
And I think that's how Lori got to pull off being so well into this story, is because he got to have fun with it. He
Right.
could be that out there character. And that's where Price and not Price, not as much, but that's where Karloff and Price, to some extent, in my opinion, were struggling. Because
Hmm.
this was a script that they just they were having to put a lot of imagination into it and a lot of method acting into it that they weren't sure that fit, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, Jack Nicholson's character, because he is so young,
Yeah.
the moment he opened his mouth, I was like, that's it. That's Jack Nicholson. I don't have to look at his face. You know, because
Oh yeah.
he's got that sound just like all the rest, like Sam Elliott and
Mm.
uh
Anyone
all
with a
the rest of them.
distinctive voice, yes.
So,
And
but it was entertaining. It was not a strict Poe story, but it did have Poe elements as usual.
oh, absolutely.
It is it is very well done because like we've said, it was a Corman movie, Matheson written. I did not appreciate some of Matheson's writing in this, but to each his own, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think if you had different characters, I mean, different actors for these characters, it might have been different. It
Oh,
might have worked like with Lorre. If they had been more of Lorre's caliber of being able to ad lib and to think outside the box, so to speak,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it would have come across different.
Yeah. And just looking up Jack Nicholson's IMDb, it was an early movie, but the
Mhm.
first movie he was in 1958. So he had a decent run of TV shows and some small parts in movies before he got to The Raven. And so, but it
Yeah.
was just I remember the first time I saw that and I realized that it was Jack Nicholson. I was like, oh, wow, look how young he looks.
Yeah. That's like the first time I realized Shatner was in Twilight Zone. I'm going, what? Is that Shatner?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. That's just, whoa, okay.
Oh, yes.
And
And
then Clint
twice.
Eastwood. Yes. And then Clint Eastwood, the first time I saw him rawhide, I'm going, ooh. And the wagon train and all those others. It's just,
Yeah.
and then Leonard Nimoy playing in Westerns. Now that was interesting.
Oh, yeah. But all right, let's not digress.
Uh,
Or is
no,
that
but
all you've got to say?
yeah, that's all I've got to say about the movie because I'm like, yeah, there's nothing else I can add.
Yeah. And still, Vincent Price's daughter, she did a great job. I was going to look up and see what
Excuse
else
me.
she was in because I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, the only thing every time that they would yell her name, only thing I could hear in my head was Stella. Sorry. It kind of just went, oh, okay, no, it's a Stella. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so the actress's name was Olive Sturgis, and
Uh-huh.
she's known for The Raven, of course, Requiem for a Gunfighter in
Uh-huh.
1965, actually Lady Godiva of Coventry in 1955, The Kettles and
Okay.
Ozarks 1956. Those are the things that are just like pop up the first, at first, like this is what they're known for.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So she did, some acting, and actually she just passed away last year in February.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah. But I mean, if you think about it, Jack Nicholson is still alive. So,
Oh yeah, he's almost 90, I think.
hmm.
Um, yeah, I will say this. These actors had excellent chemistry on screen.
Oh my gosh, yes. And when they come back together in the Comedy of Terrors, it's, and we'll talk about that one later as well, not today. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they just, their chemistry is just, I don't
Yeah.
even know what the right word is. It's so good.
Yeah, it's magical
Yeah.
because you don't have a lot of that caliber of actors together on screen that
Hmm.
work as well together. It's very few and far between.
Yeah, exactly. And The Comedy of Terrors was also 1963, and it's got some funny stuff. And
Hmm.
not only does it have Price, Lorre, and Karloff, it also has, I think it's Basil Rathbone, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so, yeah.
So that's what's even. Yes, he is in that.
Cool.
So that'll be one we'll be doing soon.
Yep.
Yes, Jeannie.
Hmm.
Are we ready to do our Raven Cause and our Black Cat Hisses?
I do want to say one thing first, though. I
Okay.
did find out because I was looking on the Audubon because I wanted to make sure that they were using the actual raven and not crow in some aspects of it.
Yes.
So I wanted to look up and make sure, and I found that caws are more crow. The
Okay.
ravens croak.
So are we going to change it to Croaks?
I liked it better when I heard it. I was like, woohoo! Because it's bad. This movie croaked. Poof, bad.
Oh, goodness. I know that's pun intended.
Exactly. But I just thought, well, because they even had where you could listen to snippets to tell the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really, I mean, it wasn't that much of a difference, but you can definitely hear where the caw is for the crow and the croak was for the raven.
Oh, that's
So
very interesting.
so I thought, well, if we want to stay authentic, and they did say that the ravens' tails are more like the red-tailed hawks, where
Yes.
they have a longer feather in the middle, like they have more of a tapered,
Yes,
and the
absolutely.
crows spread out like a hand.
And the raven's beak is bigger, and it usually has some feathering up on the, like where it
Yes,
connects to their head.
exactly. So, but I just thought that was interesting that we were croaking. So yes, I think we need to change it from caw to croak.
Okay, all right. Pivotal day, especially
Yeah.
since today is Poe's
Birthday.
217th birthday.
He looks really good for 217.
Yeah, he does.
Hmm. His Dorian Gray picture is working out very well.
Ah,
Exactly. His I can't ever say that. The digitipe. No, derog. How do you say it?
daguerreotype.
Thank you. I don't know why I keep wanting to call it digitipe, but I'm like, no, I still can't say it. Okay, so anyway, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes, I do.
So yes. So happy birthday, Mr. Poe, 217, and away we go.
Absolutely. All right. So what are you croaking out here, Jeannie?
Well, I'm gonna have to give it 3.5 croaks.
Okay.
It wasn't a horrible croak, but I just all the things that I've already said, I just can't get past. I'm thinking more about that than I am of the film, and that's always how I make my croaks.
Okay.
And then the black cat hisses. I'm gonna have to go 4
Okay.
because yeah, there was just that half a minute more hissing than the croaking. Because with the croaks, it's like it's still good, but it's not good enough.
Okay.
That's where that half hiss comes in.
The
Yeah, that's
barely.
exactly. You ruined it.
Yes. Anything else?
Nope. I mean, everybody needs to once more make their own decisions by watching it themselves. But just go in it with an open mind and you can figure it yourself.
All right. All right. For me, Croaks, I would have to give it, I'm going to say 4, because I love all three of the actors, Price, Karloff, Lorre, so much, and just all everything I've seen of them has been amazing.
Mhm.
Now, and I mean Nicholson and the Olive Sturgis, they did a great job too, and Hazel Court especially as well. And so I thought casting wise, it was perfect. The setting, the costumes, all of those things, and especially that they actually used a real raven for
Mhm.
this was so cool because when Vincent Price came in one scene and the raven was sitting on his shoulder, I was
Mhm.
like, that's awesome. That is so cool that he got to work with an actual raven. And
Yep.
so for me, again, I think a lot of this is the nostalgia of these actors working together and just loving that. And spoofs are fun, spoofs are fun. And
Mhm.
The Raven's one of my favorite poems, not probably not my favorite, but it's in the top, 10. And so that's why I would give it 4. Now,
Okay.
hisses, I would probably give it 3, just because I don't, for me, I get where you're saying the script, and I think part of it was maybe the script, but I don't know. I think the storyline itself I like, but I
Mhm.
think the way it was carried out, and I don't know if it's just a combination of just the script, the way the actors were feeling, Corman's directing, because I mean he is an amazing director, and so
Mhm.
again, this is not. I do like this film for the spoof aspect of it and the
Mhm.
nostalgia, but I think that they could have added a little bit of things differently and even pulled more out of the Raven poem and made it even a better film.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always room for improvement.
Yeah.
So,
But just Lori's ad-libbing, I think, probably gave more comedy to it than anything.
yeah, I would have to say his character was the most versatile and
Mhm.
forgiving and easiest out of all of them to play
Yeah, absolutely.
because he could truly, no pun intended, but he could definitely ruffle his feathers.
Yeah. Own the pun. Own the pun.
Exactly. I own
But
it. I own it. The pun is mine.
but in some ways, this film also is reminiscent to me of like a Mel Brooks film in a way.
Yeah.
And I really like Mel
Yeah, I have
Brooks.
to say that was the other thing that got me. Now, I'm not I love Blazing Saddles. I love it. The thing that got me with Mel Brooks was Spaceballs.
Okay.
I just, I was traumatized by that movie.
Oh, I think it's hilarious. But your humor is
Well,
different than mine in when it
yeah,
comes to film.
I
So
was truly traumatized by that movie.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
okay.
because there's a Star Trek tie to that one too. So, hey,
Oh, but yes, so I mean we're close on the croaks and the hisses, so
yeah, just a little flip there.
yeah, not too
But
bad.
it is a good movie. It is worth watching. Just go into it with an open mind.
Yeah, and I think this is a very apropos movie
Hmm.
to talk about on Poe's birthday.
Absolutely. It is one worth croaking for.
Yes. Wah, wah.
Wah, wah, wah.
So, what are we going to be watching in February, Jeannie?
Okay, our next one is the Haunted Palace.
All right.
It is not, right? It's not a Corman.
No, I think it is. Let's double check.
I gave you to write them down. Why are you making me remember? I remember the name, but I don't remember.
Oh, it's fun to have you remember.
Well, it is the Haunted Palace. It's got the name of the Haunted Palace, but the story, like we were discussing, is more of a Lovecraft story
Yes, it is. Charles.
that takes
Yeah.
place during 1758.
Yes, and I have, well, I've seen all of these. I'm not going to give anything of my yeah, it is Roger Corman, and yeah, we'll talk about all the
Oh
details
yeah.
coming up.
It's the next one that's not that was listed on IMDb that's not uh his. But we're not going to be doing that one because it's only 37 minutes long.
Okay, yes, yeah, we tend to not do like the more of the shorts. So,
Yeah.
but yes, so that yes, that's what we will be doing next time.
Yep. We would do the Haunted Palace, which once everybody should know is that is a poem that was in the Fall of the House of Usher.
Mm-hmm.
However, this is more of a Lovecraft story.
Yes.
So it's going to be interesting to see how the two work out.
Yes, and it definitely is very Poe-esque.
Hmm. I don't have a problem with that,
Oh no.
and Lovecraft was definitely a fan of Poe's,
Mm-hmm.
so
Absolutely.
it works. And on that note,
We
we are
are
Poe
Poe
out.
out.